everyone. Welcome to another edition of Break the Ice. Crack producer Zach Garrett, right behind the controls as always. I'm Mike Vogel, joined today by Pierre-Luc Dubois. The Caps back from a pretty amazing weekend. Back-to-back sweep of Toronto and Montreal on a Friday and Saturday night, with the Saturday night obviously being the Hockey Night in Canada situation. And Pierre, first question I want to ask you is just, that's not an easy back-to-back to those two buildings. But the experience for you as a guy who grew up in that area is really unique. And I don't think we didn't get the full force of it because no morning skate. But what's that like for you? And what was it like this time? Because you're also seeing Hendrix Lapierre going through that experience for the first time.
Yeah, well, it's obviously special coming from around there growing up. I wasn't necessarily a Canadiens fan growing up, but all my family was, all my friends were. So you watch them on TV. That's Saturday nights, Tuesday nights. But that was my first night playing on Saturday in Montreal. I usually get the Monday to Wednesday kind of game. So yeah, that was really fun. But to see Lappy have his first game at the Bell Center and on a Saturday, to see his excitement in the morning, and I talked to him before and I asked him if he was going to be able to nap, because my first game I wasn't able to nap, and he was like, no chance. I won't be able to nap. So just like little things like that, for Carbs to give him, to get him on the ice for the national anthem and for all that. Their intro coming onto the ice is pretty iconic. So obviously it's always fun, but it was extra to see him go through it all for the first time. Yeah,
he was talking about it even in Toronto. We talked to him before the Toronto game, and he was already pretty looped about the possibility of going in there and doing that. And the dad's trip obviously was not too far in the distance either. And one of the cool things I thought was learning about your dad, and he's got a little bit of a hockey coaching background. Explain that to our viewers, listeners. And I also thought it was really cool that Monumental did a little video of the two of you guys looking at some of your clips. I know he coaches defensemen specifically, but your two-way game is pretty solid and has been, I feel like, since you came into the league. There's got to be some sort of, obviously none of us fall that far from the tree. There's got to be some part of his hockey experience that's informed your game.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was a defenseman. I started off as a D. He didn't force me. I wanted to play D because he played D. And then I think when I turned 11, I had a coach that, long story short, gave me an option to play forward. I tried and I liked it. So ever since then, I stayed there. But growing up with a dad as a coach, did a lot of video. We do a lot of video at home, and I'd go do it with him. Just, look at the clips, and every once in a while he asked me a question. Where do you think this guy's stick should have been? Where do you think this guy should have turned? Just like for fun, not drills or anything. So I always kind of kept those little details to my game. And when I was 15, it was the QMJHL draft, and it was my draft year. And, you're 14 years old, you're 15, you're putting some pressure on yourself, you're a little nervous, and you're wondering, scouts are coming to watch me for the first time in my life. And he just told me, just be the guy that does everything out there. So after the game, the scout, even if maybe you weren't as good offensively, or maybe you weren't, you didn't have the best legs, well, they still go home and they think that guy did everything. He did well offensively, defensively. He was good on the power play, penalty kill. He had a good stick. If you do everything, somebody will like you at some point. So that's kind of what my mindset's been ever since then, is just try to do a bit of everything, because at the end of the day, even if you score 2 goals and your team loses, you're not going to go home happy. If you don't have a goal and don't have a point, but you had a good stick that led to a good forecheck, that 12 seconds later it's in the back of the net, even if you don't have a point and you win because of that, you're going home happy. So that's kind of the mindset that I've had throughout my career. I
mean, you're talking about details of the game, and scouts value hockey IQ, I feel like, more than almost anything else. And it's not something that everyone has, obviously, and it's not something that I feel like you can set out to teach, but it sounds like your dad's got a really good handle on how to sort of gradually improve that over the course of, your youth and probably adolescence. But tell us about like what he's doing now, or what he's been doing for the last few years as far as his reach is into the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, now our relationship as I gotten older, we laugh about it. Sometimes, I say I need more of a dad than a coach. We try to keep that line. Obviously, we talk about hockey 90% of the time. He tries to watch all of our games when he can, and when he can't, he'll watch replays or he'll watch the full game the next day or anything like that. So he still has a pretty big impact on my career to this day. I mean, he knows me more than anybody knows me. He knows my tendencies, my weaknesses. He knows when I have a bad game, probably why I had a bad game even before I did or I do. So, we talk a lot about hockey, my game, his team. Even sometimes he has questions about how he should approach a player or anything like that. So to have somebody like that on my side I'm very lucky.
And you grew up you were born in a really beautiful part of the world, the Laurentian Mountains. I vacationed there once. It's amazing. Yeah. And a really picturesque little town. But you grew up in Rimouski, and that's where Sidney Crosby played his junior hockey. I know you were probably just a pup then, but did you get to see him play there?
Yeah, when he was in Rimouski, I lived in Baie-Comeau, so like right across the river, 2-hour boat ride. I remember my dad was coaching for their rivals, so he was coaching for the other teams or for the Drakkar. So I remember going to one game. I don't remember necessarily because I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
5 or 6, but I don't remember Sid necessarily. I just remember it being a high-scoring game, and then later on throughout the years, my dad told me that they were winning 5-1 going into the third, and they lost 6-5, and Sid had, I think, 3-2 or something like that in the third period. So, but yeah, I wish I could remember more than that, but at least my dad got to remember and got to see it firsthand.
And you talked about the QM. Quebec Major Junior League.
A lot of letters, yeah.
Yeah, the draft, and you wound up going to Cape Breton, which is as far east, I think, as you can get in that league, and it's probably the Atlantic time zone. What was that experience like, and what's the landscape and the area like, and just what was that experience like going there as a probably 15, 16-year-old kid? Yeah,
it's funny because, the team, I went 5th. The team 4 was Sherbrooke. And that's like 2 hours from Montreal, an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then 5 was Cape Breton. And I kind of wanted to go to Cape Breton because I wanted to get away from home, and not because I didn't want to see my family or anything like that, just because it was so different. And I wanted to experience something completely different. And being able to live for the first time in my life in somewhere that was English, obviously I was bilingual because of my mom, so that helps too, but just being able to go away and see something completely different. I mean, it feels like sometimes you're not even in Canada. It's so the opposite of Quebec and the rest of Canada. It's it's the Maritimes. It's laid back. People have thick accents over there. The food is different. The way of life, everything. And then on top of that, you have the travel. Every road trip is. Yeah. The closest road trip was 4.5, and then in division you'd have 8-9 hour road trips. Everything in Quebec is minimum 11, up to 24. So I remember when I got drafted there, my dad said, "Well, you'll get to see what the travel in the NHL roughly is like, because it's a lot of hours and not a lot of sleep, a lot of games." So that was a great experience. I'm really lucky. I met some unbelievable people, played with some great players there, and I'm really, really fortunate that they drafted me. And you told me that at the beginning of your draft year there, or maybe just before, that's when the conversion from wing to center happened, and you initially were a little reluctant because it was your draft year, but I think probably looking back now, it was probably a really good thing. Yeah. So the story was that we have, like, before the QMJHL draft, we do like a combine. Like kind of like the NHL with the off-ice test, but we do games. So Quebec has 2 teams, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PI has a team. So it's like a little tournament. And before the first practice, the coach had the lines up, and I was playing center, and I was like, oh man. I called my dad after the practice, and I was like, I don't want to play center. I've never played center. This is the combine. This is my last chance to play in front of scouts, and I'm playing a position I've never played before. And he was like, well, this is a good opportunity for you. Like this is you can show them that you're smart enough to play another position and you have another tool in the toolbox. And, same concept as earlier, you can do something else. So I said, sure. So I played that combine and I did well. And, sure enough, the scouts went and told my dad, oh, we didn't know PL could play center like that. So that was that. And then it ended there. My first year in junior, I played on the wing. And then probably 20 games into my draft year in the NHL, so at 17, one of our centers got injured, and my coach came to see me, and he said, I remember you playing center at the combine. You played well.
Wow.
I'm going to put you in the middle. And the same thing, kind of in my head, I was like, well, it's my draft. Like you're putting pressure on yourself. It's my draft year. I haven't played center really except for 4 games in my life. And then that first game, I was playing with Evgeny Svechnikov, who was a first-round pick too, and Maxim Lazarev, who was a great junior player. And it went really well, and then from there it kind of took off. So, kind of maybe lucky, maybe good timing or anything like that. But that was a pretty crazy time.
I mean, when you look back on that now, because I know that you thought that playing with Russians at that formative age was really informed your game as well. But what was it like? Because you're trying to learn a new position, and you're playing with these guys who grew up playing on a different surface, a different style game. What was it like to be able to kind of incorporate all of those elements simultaneously while you're still trying to push your way up, and in your draft year?
Yeah, I think a lot of people and factors have played a large part in my development. And I think that is obviously playing center is one of them because that's my new position now. But I think just playing with them, the way they see the game, and they communicated a lot. If they didn't like a player, if they thought I could make a better play, they would tell me right away. And the way they see the game is completely different. So it opened up my mind to new things and new ideas and new ways to get zone entries, new ways to get zone exits, anything like that. And then I think that helped a lot into 2 years later when I was in Columbus, and then I started playing with Artemi Panarin. It was it was shocking because Maxim Lazarev, who I played junior with, he never played in the NHL, got invited to some camps, but he was the junior version, it felt like, of Artemi Panarin, and the creativity that he had. He was a righty. He wasn't the biggest guy. He had a great shot. He could pass the puck. So then when I transitioned to playing with Panarin, it was almost like 2 years before when I was playing with Lazarev. So that was they helped me a lot, those two.
And I think it was 8 years ago. It'll be 8 years ago Wednesday. You were traded from Cape Breton to Blainville. It's right outside of Laval, actually, way closer to where you were born. What was that experience like? Because you were able to go on a pretty long playoff run with that team. That was the end of your Q career there.
Yeah. So when I came back from Columbus, and my GM in Cape Breton told me, I'm going to trade you at the deadline. We're not trying to win this year. So these are your last 2 months basically in Cape Breton, and I had a good time. And then I didn't know where I was going to get traded. And then Blainville was the destination. So go there. It's 30 minutes outside Montreal.
Yeah.
I'm 18 years old, so it was, different organization, different philosophies, different culture there. Also learned a lot. The coaching staff was great. The players there, I have friends for life. Some of my best friends right now are from those short 4 or 5 months there.
Wow.
But, that was, it's funny. My dad would always talk about when he played junior in Laval, and he had these stories and all that. And then now, when I see my friends, we talk about it, and I'm like, I'm turning into my dad. I have these same stories about this, about that, about coach, about practice, about, on the road and stuff like that. So, but yeah, some playing there, even if it was just for 4 or 5 months, those are some of my best memories of junior.
It's funny you mentioned the coaching staff in Blainville too, because there's an ex-Cap was on that staff.
Yeah.
One of our favorite guys from when I started here a long time ago, JF Fortin, and now the guy who's coaching Cape Breton is also a former Caps short timer, a guy named Louis Robitaille, who again we spent a lot of time with. Fun guy. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, and then you you wind up getting drafted on your 18th birthday. What was that experience like going to Buffalo? When did you expect to hear your name called, and how did it play out as far as when your name was actually called?
Yeah, just the fact that it was on the exact day on my birthday, that was pretty special. When I at the beginning of the year when I saw that the draft was going to be, because it's always roughly around there.
Yeah.
But it could be the 26th or whatever. Right. So the 24th, when I saw that, I was obviously excited, and then we rented a house in Niagara on the water on the beach. No, obviously not on the falls. But so all my family came down, my friends came down. We were probably 12, 15. And then, yeah, that whole process was just like a dream come true. At the beginning of the year, I was ranked. I think the first list came out. Actually, the first time I thought about the draft was my 16-year-old year and the playoffs. I never even thought about the NHL in my life. And then after the playoffs, my 16-year-old year, one of the scouts for a team that my dad knew, he saw my dad and he was like, "Hey, tell your son, by the way, if he keeps it up, he could maybe be a first-round pick next year." My dad told me that, and I was like, "Really?" Like the NHL, like I never even thought for a second that was possible. So yeah, throughout that whole year, I wasn't even thinking about it, and then it kind of became real at the combine, and then going to the draft, and everybody was talking about Matthews, Laine, and Puljujarvi, and so it was Toronto, Winnipeg, and Columbus. And, I didn't know anything. I'm just an innocent kid that's just happy to be there. And then Columbus, I met with them at the combine, then went to Columbus after with a few guys, like an extended kind of interview process. And then after that, they kept sending me emails of stuff to fill out, like forms to fill out and questionnaires to fill out. And I remember I was with my dad, and I was thinking, if they're not going to draft me, it's kind of weird that they're sending me, they're wasting their own time sending me all this if they're not interested. And he said, well, they might be interested. And, I didn't think anything of it at the draft, didn't think anything of it. And then Toronto drafts and then Winnipeg drafts. And then towards, Columbus, their table is, right in front of us. We're sitting in the stands. And, so the second Winnipeg's done drafting, Torts is in his chair, and he just turns his chair completely facing me. And my dad is like, "Hey, you see that? You see that? Torts over there?" And I was like, "I don't know. There must be, I don't know. He was tired of turning or whatever." And he was like, "No, something's going on." And then 12 seconds later, my agent told me, "Okay, they're drafting you." And then the cameras come, and then not even 30 seconds later, I was drafted to Columbus. So, yeah, that was a pretty special moment, especially for, I think guys like Matthews and Laine expected to be there.
Yeah.
6 months, 8 months, 10 months before. I mean, a year before, I wasn't even thinking about the NHL. So all that year was just really crazy.
That's a great story, and I feel like most of the Canadian teams were up in that top 10. I think Montreal could have made a deal to move up. There were some rumors about that. I think Calgary was in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. It felt like your name was getting bandied about with all the Canadian teams that were in the top 10 or. Except for obviously Toronto and Winnipeg. What was it like to go to eventually Columbus as a 19-year-old, make the team as a teenager? You score your first NHL goal on opening night. Sonny Milano does too. Same game. His is in the I think first shift of the game for him. Yeah. And yours is middle of the second period. Chases the same goalie, Thomas Greiss, off. Yeah. He's done for the night. What was that experience like? Because I know that's every kid's dream, scoring your first game, but then things got a little rough for you. I think 10, 11 games without a point. How did you – it's a broad question, I know, but just being in an American city now and as a 19-year-old playing for John Tortorella and finding your way on and off the ice, and then also, you get that jolt of adrenaline from scoring in your first game, and then that's probably the biggest struggle you had to that point in your hockey career, I would think. Yeah,
I could go a lot of places with this question, but I thought when I got drafted, I did my first camp at 18, and I thought, I could play in the NHL, and that first camp was just a slap in the face. It was so hard. towards his camps where it was, and I wasn't ready physically. Mentally, I might have been, but physically I wasn't ready, and they sent me back down to junior where I should have been. And then the next camp I come back and I'm ready for the camp. I know exactly what we're going to do. I know what the skating's going to be like. I know what the expectations are. So I was ready, and I had a pretty good camp and obviously make the team. And that first game, my parents were there, my sister was there, my cousins, my uncle, my aunt, basically the whole family's there. And same thing. I'm just like this 19-year-old kid that I keep saying this, but it didn't even feel real yet that I was in the NHL. So that first game was really special just to have him there, and then obviously to score is a dream come true. But just to be there, I remember I had a 2-on-1 couple shifts before with Brandon Dubinsky, I think, and I just shot in the goalie's chest, and usually I would have been upset, but I was almost like smiling because I was like, I can't believe that actually happened. I think that might have been my first shot, and I remember going on the bench and thinking, wow, I just had it. I almost scored in the NHL, So a couple shifts later to score was special. But yeah, that was really fun. But yeah, that whole first year, I scored my first game. I didn't score again until I think game 23 or 22 against Nashville. I didn't have my next point until game 12 in Florida. But yeah, that's another story. But yeah, so it was a pretty special first year.
What went into getting you on track? Because you finished with a really good first year, 20 goals, close to 50 points, if I remember right. Got some Calder votes in a pretty good field of Calder players that year.
Yeah, well, I started the year with a goal, and then I wasn't playing a lot, but I wasn't playing well, but I was kind of in no man's land of knowing what was my job and where I should be. And all your life I was playing big minutes, and you're playing first line, and you're not thinking anything of it. And now all of a sudden I'm on the fourth line. I remember a game. Funny story. I played I think 4 minutes 17 against Winnipeg, and after the game I'm lost, And then Sonny was on the team, comes up to me, starts laughing. He's like, I didn't know it was possible to play under 5. Next game we go to St. Louis, he played 3. So that was pretty funny. It's an inside between me and Sonny. But anyway, so so I'm kind of confused, and I'm thinking, do I have to forecheck? Do I have to be more physical? Like I'm on the fourth line, I have to be a good fourth line player. And I talked to my dad, and he said, go talk to John, go talk to Torts. You can't ask for more ice time because you're not playing well, but you can ask, how can you get more ice time? So, we're on the ice, and I tell Torts, can I talk to you? And he said, come see me after practice. I said, okay. So I go see him after practice. I get in his office, and I tell him, I kind of lost right now. I've never been here in my life. Like I said, I want to play more, but I don't deserve it. But how can I deserve it? And he stops me right there, and he shows me clips for the next 10 minutes. Shows me clips. He's telling me exactly what he thinks. He's not trying to be nice. He's just trying to get straight to the point. Telling me all these things. I'm kind of like, okay, wow, he's really ripping into me here. And then at the end, he finishes with because we were going to Florida. We were flying to Florida that day. And at the end, he says, maybe tomorrow, do you think playing center would help you? Because I was playing on the wing. And I said, yeah, I think it would help me. He's like, okay, I'll see what I can do. So the next day we go to Florida. Good morning skate. I'm still on the fourth line, left wing. So I said, okay, well, we'll see. And then we get to the game. I look at the lineup. I'm playing third line center. And then he comes and sees me, and he says, you have a game. You have one game. So I was like, okay. And then that game I played really well. Had my second point of the season. And then the next game I was playing with Sonny and Bjorkstrand, so 3 young guys. Yeah. And he comes up to us and he says, they're going to send Kucherov and Stamkos against your line. So get off as fast as you can. But PL, you might have to stay out there because you're the center, so you might have to stay out to support. So the whole game I got caught against their line, and I played really well. I had my 3rd point of the season that night. And then that's kind of where it took off for me. So that was kind of the opportunity I was given, and I just went with it. And then, 20 or a couple games after, a while later, that's when I started playing with Panarin, and And that's when I got the majority of my points.
And we saw you play in the playoffs that year. That's the year the Caps won the Cup. They had Columbus in the first round, that first round series. Thought you looked pretty good. I remember thinking, wow, for a 19-year-old kid playing center, and that was a good Columbus team. Like, that's a really sneaky good team that had a lot of scoring depth up and down the lineup. And then the next year, you guys wind up knocking off the
Tampa, yeah.
the Tampa Bay Lightning, that might have been the first playoff series win in franchise history. What was it like to be a part of that, to knock that? Because they were the President's Trophy team. They had just an amazing regular season. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, that was really fun. That whole season, we finished the year. I think there was like 20 games left, and we needed to win or have a point in like 17, and we did it. We finished the year on fire. And we knew we had a good team, but we knew we shouldn't have been 8th, but we were, and that's just how it is. Yeah. And you can't do anything about it. So when we played Tampa, they beat the record for most points in a single season. But we're thinking, we're better than 8th. We shouldn't be 8th. We're 8th because of circumstances throughout the year, but we're a better team than this. So yeah, we went in first period, first game 1, a little nervous. I think everybody was, and then first period 3-0 Tampa. And then we come back to the room, and Torts has his speech that they filmed and that everybody has seen now, and come back that game, win. I think game 2 won like 7-2 or something. Game 3, 4 at home. The crowd was wild. It was probably the loudest I've ever heard a building. When Josh Anderson scored that goal in the empty net in game 4. So yeah, that was crazy. And then we eventually ended up losing to Boston in 6. But even those last 2 games, we hit a lot of posts. We had a lot of chances. I mean, you need some. We didn't lose because of luck, but you need some luck, and we didn't have it. And Boston played well. They're experienced team with great players, and they beat us. But that whole run was a great experience.
Yeah, you absolutely got to have the luck, and Caps managed to find some during that series, starting around game 3, I think. Double overtime when Lars scored. With the benefit of 6, 7, 8 years of hindsight now, how has your opinion of John as a coach evolved? Because I know he's got to be tough on young players. I mean, we're seeing it again, with Michkov in Philadelphia. But I got to think too that the story that you told about him giving you that one game, there's something slightly heartwarming somewhere down in that. I mean, he's got this gruff exterior that he likes to put out there, but just wondering how your opinion of him has evolved since.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of a kind. You hear all these stories before, and then it's your turn to get in there and get in the ring, I guess. And but he. There's times where it wasn't easy, and there's times where I'd go home, I wouldn't be happy, and then I'd be pretty upset about what happened or about things that were said. But at the end of the day, having a dad as a coach, I think helped. He always said it's not personal; it's because he wants the best out of you. And I'd have old players of his reach out to me and tell me about their experiences, and they went through the same thing, and they had great careers after because of him and all that. And I think it's easy to look back on it now and see, but when you're in the moment as a 20-year-old, even if I knew that later on in life I'm going to appreciate it, you don't always appreciate it as much in the moment. But yeah, he was great for me in a lot of ways, helped me a lot in a lot of ways. And when I left Columbus, we didn't talk really, and then in that playoffs, I wasn't having a good year my first year in Winnipeg, and he texted me out of nowhere. We hadn't talked in forever. He texted me out of nowhere, and then he asked me if he could talk, and then he called me and he gave me shit on the phone. He wasn't even my coach anymore. He gave me shit on the phone, but he finished with like in typical Torts manner. I know you can do so much better. I believe in you. I believe that you can do more. You just gotta skate. You gotta, and we ended that call, and that's just Torts. He cares so much about his players, and it's never personal. He doesn't do something because he does. When he does something like that, it's because he believes in you. And now looking back on it, I could see and appreciate it more now. And if I had to talk to a young guy that's going through it, I'd tell him the same things. but he would probably be like me when I was a kid. Wouldn't see it right away, and we'll see it in 10 years, but there's nothing you can do about that.
Who were as a teenager trying to find your way in the league, who were the veterans on that team that sort of gave you a push, helped you along, kind of like what I've seen you take Lappy under your wing since you've been here?
Yeah, I there's a lot of guys that helped me a lot. Obviously, he's like a brother to me now, David Savard. I lived with him my first year, him and his family, him and his wife, his kids now. So he was more than he was like a brother. Still is to this day. Nick Foligno was very helpful too. Jenner, Jones when he was there, Cam Atkinson, Panarin. All these guys I played with helped a lot, and even the staff too. Always they knew when me and Torts were in a good spot, and they're always there to listen or to give their advice, and that is always helpful for a young kid.
How difficult was it to get traded in that shortened season pretty early? And I mean, there's the whole world is shut down essentially. It was such a bizarre time for all of us, and now you're going from Columbus to Winnipeg. You got to set up, household and all that there. I think people. That's the one thing that regular humans don't understand about what you guys have to deal with. If we change jobs, we get a couple of weeks to work it out. You guys got to show up like the next day, and you got to hit the ground running because assets were given up. There's expectations. There's all kinds of stuff that people don't get. What was that like for you to have to do that in that environment?
Yeah, I mean, it was a complete mess. It was, the summer, I had to quarantine twice, so that's 4 weeks of your, 9 week summer, and spending at home, not working out, not on the ice, just completely doing band work at home. Then right before camp in Columbus, we had an outbreak. It was still at the time where we weren't sure about COVID yet. So from the time the first guy tested positive to the time I was out was 20 days. Because I never tested positive, but they always thought the positive test will come. So the first guy that tested positive, he came out 2 weeks later. I had to do an extra 6 days because they thought I was going to test positive at some point. And then a week later, camp starts. So I spent 20 days at home, and then a week later, I get to work out and skate again. Then I'm back on the ice. Then the season starts. So I'm not in shape, where I should be. Then I get traded to Winnipeg. I have another 2 week quarantine that I have to do mid-season while they're playing and skating and working out. Yeah. I'm at home for 2 weeks. I come back, I practice once by myself, then once with the team, then I play. That first game back, I get injured. So then I have another, I think it's 10 or 12 days of not skating, not working out, basically. And then I start playing, and it's game 22, and it's game basically 0 again for me without really a training camp, without really a summer working out. I was in as good enough shape that I could have been, but that was just tough. And then you jungle, getting to a new team, trying to get to know the guys, but you can't go for dinner, you can't see them at home, you can't see them on the road. So that was just that year was really tough, more mentally than anything, because it's frustrating when you know what you can do, but you can't do it because your body isn't in the position where it can be. You didn't have your 12 weeks of summer. You didn't, skate a whole lot in the summer. You didn't have a training camp to get ready for anything. You're kind of just thrown into the fire. So mentally it was tough because I knew I could do more. There's nothing I can do. You're kind of just playing catch up the whole season.
So you're like 7 years down the road from your NHL debut now, over 500 games in the league. How much do you think that mental evolution from being an 18-year-old kid drafted, 19-year-old kid making his NHL debut? I think it was. I asked this of almost every guy who's on this podcast. This question. I think it was Gretzky who said that the tragedy of being a pro athlete is that your mental peak comes so far after your physical peak. And I feel like you're one of the rare guys who's been, and maybe it's because of your dad, but I feel like you're one of the guys who's got a grasp on that. And you've actually, I think, improved your mental outlook, and I think it's informed probably everything that's gone on in your career because you've had some hurdles to get over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a believer in everything happens for a reason. but I'm still, I think sometimes I think I have an idea, but I really don't. And you just learn as you go. And
It's just youth.
Yeah. And, you try to have answers, and everybody wants them right away, but you get them with time, and sometimes it's frustrating. But, I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of teams, of critiques, of everything. And, like I said, I think everything happens for a reason, and you learn from everything. So, even to this day, like I said, sometimes talking to Lappy, sometimes I know the answer, sometimes I think I know the answer, sometimes I don't have the answer at all. So, you just learn with time, and you just have to accept it.
And as we mentioned earlier, you played against the Caps the year they won the Cup. You were in the building the night that Alex passed Gordie Howe, and then a couple of years later, you wind up coming to Washington. It's been almost 6 months since that trade. What would you say about your reaction when you found out you were coming to Washington versus now, a third of the way into your first season here, what will hopefully be at least seven seasons here? How has the reality compared to the expectation and the hope of late June?
Yeah. Well, the moment I found out I was on a plane, it was through text from my agent. And he just told me you're traded, and my initial thought was, I have 7 years left. Where am I going? No, you have no say. It just And when he texted me in Washington, it was a sigh of relief. I hadn't heard nothing but great things about the organization, about the city. I've known the fans from playing at Cap One, but as a visitor, I knew the fan base was good, and getting closer to my family on the East Coast was also really nice. So the first initial reaction was a sigh of relief, but like I said, everything I heard from players that played it in Washington that I played with in Winnipeg or wherever, everybody said what a great group it is. The staff is great. The organization's fantastic. So then I come here, and from day one, I came here about a month before camp. The trainers, everybody here has been really helpful. For me, and I can't ask for more. I mean, it's been great. The players have been welcoming from day one. The staff, the players, the coaches. It's really been the best case scenario in that sense. I'm extremely, extremely lucky to have these guys help me out throughout the season, and throughout my time here already.
And you've been great on the ice here through these first 27 games. How has the relationship between yourself and the staff been, as far as even going back to the day of the trade? What did Carbs and everyone say about what was expected of you, and why do you feel like it's been such a good fit for you here, and not just for you, but I mean, 8 new guys, and here you guys sit atop the Eastern Conference. I don't think too many people out there expected that.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, for me personally, from the moment I got here, from the first conversations, I just felt that confidence that they had in me. And as a player, that's all you want. You want to feel like they can have confidence in you, and they trust you, and then all you have to do is return the favor. All you have to do is go out there and work and show them that they're right in believing in you. And like I said, those first conversations, and showing up here and having them in real life, and telling them them telling you what their vision of you is, and their vision of what you can do is, it motivates you, and it's fun, and you get on the ice, and you want to show them that they're right, and you want to show them that they did it for a good reason, and that you can deliver. So, the staff has been fantastic with me. Just conversations every day, or believing in me, putting me in situations that maybe I wouldn't have been in the past, but I want to prove to them that I can do it. So that's been great. And then the players, it's the same thing. I think I can't speak for the other new guys on the team, but one thing I can speak for is, if it wasn't for this culture that these guys have set in this locker room, it wouldn't have been as easy. I'm convinced that the new guys, why it's been easy to gel and why it's been easy to adapt is, this team, this group, what we believe in is winning, and is winning as a team. And I've never been on a team that celebrates a good stick as much as a goal, but that's what it is here.
Yeah.
When my friends ask me what it's like in the room, I tell them it's like when I was 14, just a bunch of 14-year-olds. I hate to say it, but a bunch of idiots just going out there and having fun playing hockey and doing it because it's what they love to do, and nobody's thinking of down the road. Nobody's thinking about statistics. It's just guys that want to go out there and play and have fun. And a block shot's as important as a goal. Good sticks as important as a pass, and it just creates this environment that's just so much fun to be in.
That's really great to hear. I mean, it is a game, and it seems like problems start when the business part comes in. So it's good that you guys are able to boil it down to what it is, a really fun game for kids. Thanks to Pierre-Luc Dubois for spending a whole bunch of time with us today. We'll have you back in a couple of years when you're closer to 1,000 games. He's going to be here for a while. Thanks to Pierre-Luc Dubois for spending some time with us on this episode of Break the Ice.